Tonight, the search for another Rangers manager. Russell Martin becomes the fourth manager to be sacked in 3 years and is forced to leave under police escort.
I'll have the latest from Ibrox as Rangers target a quick appointment to Russell Martin's successor.
Also making the headlines, we hear from the woman whose broken back went undetected for 3 months during her pregnancy. 1 in 4 children remains in poverty, according to a new report. A warning Scottish Government targets will be missed by a massive margin. And we travel south for a close-up look at the clean-up of the George Square statues. I'm John Mackay. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. Rangers are tonight looking for their 5th manager in 3 years. Russell Martin was sacked yesterday after being forced to leave Falkirk Stadium with the help of a police escort. Angry fans vented their fury after another disappointing result. It brings to an end weeks of the head coach being booed and fans staying away from Ibrox. In a statement to fans a short time ago, the board said, "We did not get this right and it's our responsibility to fix it and get us back on track." A rigorous, thoughtful recruitment process is already underway. So let's take a look at the numbers that show how it all went wrong for Martin. The former Southampton boss was unveiled at Ibrox in June, but only lasted 122 days in charge. That makes him the shortest-serving permanent boss in Rangers history. He took charge of just 17 competitive matches with only 1 win in 7 Premiership games. Yesterday's draw making it Rangers' worst start to a league campaign in 47 years. It all follows a summer that began with great hope for the support when a new US consortium took over at Ibrox. 13 new signings were made at a cost of £20 million. We can now cross to Rahman at Ibrox. And Rahman, no surprise.
Absolutely no surprise at all, John. The only surprise is that Russell Martin wasn't sacked much sooner. When he was appointed head coach in June, he vowed to win trophies with a successful team. But the reality is that team has regressed big time, following one disaster after another. The Rangers hierarchy acted late last night in a statement just before 10 o'clock announcing Russell Martin's departure. His record is historically bad. No place on the team bus and now no place at the club. Being escorted by police at the Falkirk Stadium was Russell Martin's last act as Rangers head coach, evading angry supporters. After the draw against Falkirk, the club called time on Martin's disastrous 4-month reign.
You knew the guy didn't know about Scottish football, that's as far as I'm concerned, right? But he should have went weeks and weeks ago.
I think the results speak for themselves and I think the fans have had enough, really.
I think it's a good thing because we need a better manager.
If it's 7 games ever and you know they're doing that bad, then I suppose anybody could go in and do a better job.
Those who hired Russell Martin in June said he would bring a winning team and a strong culture. Many fans, though, were unconvinced from the beginning. Martin vowed to prove them wrong. He maintained this yesterday after yet another poor result.
I believe I can. I believe I can. So I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I knew it probably wasn't going to be quick, but we're at a club which patience is not a word that is used. So no, I really believe I can.
But under his watch, the team regressed with historically poor results. Supporters' calls for him to be sacked grew louder and louder, and they started voting with their feet.
If you looked at the League Cup tie against Hibs, almost 20,000 empty seats. The European match against Genk, 15,000 empty seats. Hospitality packages not selling out. The game against Roma that's coming up is miles away from being a sellout. The fans haven't bought into it. And I think financially, it must be costing the club a fortune.
As well as losing the fan support, all was not well in his dressing room. He dropped captain James Tavernier, then fans' favourite Nicola Raskin, and publicly questioned his players' mentality. We put this yesterday to one of his signings.
I wouldn't say there's an anxiety. Obviously, like I say, you hear the things that are being chanted from the fans, and it's hard to ignore that.
After continually being backed by the board, the club's hierarchy sacked Russell Martin after just 122 days in charge. Statistically, he had the worst record of any Rangers manager. The board are under serious pressure to get the next appointment right.
And we'll have more from Ibrox and from Rahman in the sport later. Now, can you imagine living with a broken back for months on end without even knowing? Well, that was the reality for one mum from Glasgow after being pregnant with her first son. Kirsten Furley was eventually diagnosed with pregnancy-associated osteoporosis, a rare bone condition that caused her to lose 3 inches in height. Experts say routine height checks during pregnancy could help with early detection. Amy Flett reports.
When Kirsten gave birth to her first child, she experienced so much back pain she could barely move from the hospital bed.
I was lying on my bed and I could not move. The pain was unbelievable. I've never had back pain before, really. It's not something I've ever suffered from, but it really was bad. And I then got discharged about a week later. And when I was at home, things just got worse. I was nursing my baby on the floor. I couldn't stand up straight. I couldn't stand up to brush my teeth. And I was breastfeeding at the time and kind of lying on the floor.
It wasn't until 6 weeks later, during an MRI scan for an unrelated health issue, that she was diagnosed with a rare bone condition.
This doctor came in and he said, "Have you been in an accident?" And I looked at him and I was like, "No, what kind of accident? What do you mean?" And he was like, "Because you've kind of broken your back." So he showed me the scan and I was just like, whoa. And there was multiple fractures. He's like, "To be honest, I've never heard of it. It's something called pregnancy-associated osteoporosis."
As a result, Kirsten lost 3 inches in height.
It's another severe fracture, another.
Pregnancy-associated osteoporosis is believed to affect around 5 in every 100,000 women. Its exact cause is unclear, but some experts suggest it may be linked to genetics.
The issue with it is the diagnosis is often missed. And the story we've had from so many women who've had it is they've had back pain, maybe gone to a healthcare professional and been told, well, back pain is normal during pregnancy. But what is not normal is height loss.
The University of Edinburgh's research found that simply measuring height at the beginning and end of pregnancy could help aid early detection of the condition. Kirsten gave birth to her second son last year. While she experienced similar symptoms, having a diagnosis made a huge difference.
With that black and white proof that there was something wrong, I think I just didn't feel like I was being judged. Not being able to look after your child, not being able to pick up your child, that's not normal. And the loss of height goes without saying.
After a long journey to recovery, Kirsten hopes to use her experience to help other mums facing similar struggles be believed and get the care they need. Amy Flett, STV News.
For decades, politicians in Scotland have been pledging to tackle child poverty. But now there's a warning targets for reducing it will be missed by a large margin. A report from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation is warning 1 in 4 children remains in poverty. The numbers much the same as at the time of the last Holyrood election. The charity is calling on all the parties standing for Parliament next year to do more. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
A couple of bananas.
At the Food Facts Friends community hub in Pennycook, the pantry offers a wide range of groceries at low prices. Crawford, who's raising his granddaughter, told me it's a godsend in helping make ends meet.
What I get here, I can then sit down and plan out what I need for the rest of the week, and I save a lot of money. This morning my granddaughter's going to school and I said, look, I'm going down the pantry today. And she's like, she'll come in tonight, straight into the fridge, straight into the cupboard, see what goodies she's got that she wouldn't normally have. I wouldn't normally have the money to pay for.
This service has been running for nearly 10 years. Demand from families is higher than ever.
Seeing all this happen, it must be difficult. It's very sad and it's very stressful to see people coming in the doors and the amount of people that use the service, and it's a struggle to make sure that we have enough food to serve these people.
Sadly, the problem isn't new.
Good evening. The government has unveiled plans to wipe out child poverty in 20 years' time.
That vision from 1999 didn't become reality.
At this conference, the charity, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, is discussing poverty in Scotland. Many of the themes chime with what we've heard anecdotally. with a Holyrood election on the way next year, a key message from here is that the time for talking is running out, and what they want to see beyond that is more action.
Scottish child payment is making a difference. Scotland will probably be the only part of the UK over the rest of this decade where child poverty falls. It shows the potential of government action, but we have to see more. What is our Parliament and government for? It's there to drive change. We cannot accept today that the position that our country's in is as good as it gets. It is not. I fundamentally believe we can do better, and it's up to those politicians that deliver it.
The foundation wants to see more affordable homes and, crucially, better support to get people into work, like improved childcare, if there's to be any hope of making significant progress. The current government target calls for child poverty rates to be down to 10% by the start of the next decade. Gordon Cree, STV News.
Nearly 5,000 homes are still without power after Storm Amy hit the country. Scottish Southern Electricity Networks say they have reconnected 80,000 homes after gusts of 96 miles per hour hit parts of Scotland over the weekend. It's home to Glasgow's historic city chambers and where its citizens gather to celebrate, commemorate and protest. George Square is undergoing a major transformation as part of a £20 million programme of work. Central to this makeover is the restoration of 11 of its iconic statues, which are in the hands of specialists who are carefully working to return them to their original condition. Our chief reporter, Sharon Frew, has been behind the scenes.
Like giant chess pieces, they stand waiting for the next move. Hundreds of miles from Glasgow in a yard in Hertfordshire, a painstaking restoration is underway. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert watch over a lineup that includes writers, military leaders, politicians and scientists. As each layer is removed, intricate details emerge.
They was covered in, I'd describe it as a thick black, deep black paint, treacly paint. We sent them to be aerobraded, a kind of soft, gentle sandblasting process, and that just lifted off the paint without damaging or losing any texture from the surface.
The colour that we can see now and the detail we can see now, this isn't finished?
No, this is, it's sort of almost like it's rawness. The natural colour of the bronze is this sort of colour here.
Using a traditional patination process creates different depths of colour. For the first time in decades, specialists can also inspect inside these bronzes for any sign of corrosion.
It's fascinating to be able to see how they were made and the processes that were used in the 19th century. Often cast in several sections and pinned together using techniques which the ability to do has now been lost.
This restoration work will continue over the coming months, and if all goes to plan, it's hoped all 11 statues will return to George Square by next summer. George Square has had many configurations over the decades. How it will look in 2026 has been subject to extensive consultation.
Fundamentally, the benefit that people are going to get from George Square is having a new, high-quality, attractive civic space for the city. It's a living room for Glasgow, and it's really important that we get this right in creating a modern, attractive European space for people to enjoy. We are working on the basis of all of the statues coming back, but with that added information, that added interpretation, so that we're not hiding history, but that we're telling the full story of history.
Glasgow City Council is at the moment adopting an approach to retain and explain, with new interpretation panels being proposed to accompany the returning statues. 8 of the 11 have been found to have connections to the Atlantic slave trade. This sculpture of military leader Sir John Moore was the very first to be placed in George Square in 1819.
So it'll fit in his hand, something like that.
A missing sword has been recast as part of this restoration. Both Moore and Lord Clyde are linked to colonial atrocities.
We are responsible, of course, for the maintenance and preservation of these statues, but the proper thing to do would have been to leave him disarmed. The fact that they've recast it is deeply offensive. Outraged by it, personally. However, I am not somebody who wants to destroy statues. I believe we should put them in a proper place, and the proper place is not veneration in the main square. We should have people on those plinths that represent what Glasgow stands for now. You know, there should be some women in that square for a start, other than Queen Victoria.
This project to remove and conserve the bronze statues has been the largest of its kind in the UK for 20 years. The team will need to do this huge transfer again in reverse when this makeover is complete. Sharon Frew, STV News.
A man has appeared at Glasgow Sheriff Court accused of murder following remains being found at Loch Lomond. David McCall, aged 50, allegedly assaulted Graham Wright, whose remains were discovered near Firkin Point on the 13th of September. Mr McCall made no plea at the private appearance and was remanded in custody. The death of a student who took his own life after a grading error will be re-examined by the Crown Office. Ethan Brown died last year on the day he was supposed to graduate from the University of Glasgow. He had been informed he wouldn't be eligible to graduate. His family later learned the university had made a mistake. A spokesperson from the Crown said a renewed investigation was underway. The university previously said it was undertaking a thorough review. Thousands of passengers face travel disruption over Christmas as planned engineering works will affect major routes. Network Rail said no trains will run between Dalmuir, Balloch and Helensburgh Central or between Glasgow Queen Street and Crianlarich from Christmas Eve until January the 2nd. Today marks 45 years since the 96-mile West Highland Way officially opened. A newly established charity, which manages the trail, says support is urgently needed to ensure the route from Mulgai to Fort William remains open for future generation. It says parts of the route are under increasing pressure from climate change. Raheem Cham tells us more.
Hikers and bikers setting off in a journey that will take them days. But the charity in charge of the West Highland Way say urgent funding is needed to maintain and protect the path.
Climate change is having an impact on the West Highland Way. A lot of work goes into maintaining the path surface, all the bridges, way markers and so on. When there's a storm, as we've just seen with Storm Amy, there's a lot of excess water that causes drainage issues. There may be trees down. So a lot of work has to go in to clear that.
The long-distance walk is recognised by National Geographic as one of the world's top 20 trails, contributing an estimated £20 million annually to Scotland's rural economy. Some people take on the challenge to celebrate special occasions.
Basically, we had a few big birthdays in our gym group. So one girl was 50, the other girl was going to be 60. So we decided we'd do a bit of a challenge for that. So here we are on the West Highland Way.
I've done this route before, and so I'm walking up into the Highlands. You can't beat it. It really is special, especially when you get to Glencoe.
I've driven it loads of times, but I've never walked it. Seen loads of people walking it, and I said to my husband one day I'd like to do it. Met all my friends, obviously, and we thought it was a special birthday, 40th, 50th and 60th. Let's go for it. And we picked October, so there'll be no midges, hopefully.
This year alone, 45,000 people have completed the 96-mile journey, which starts in Mulgai and winds through the scenic lochs, Munros and woodlands. One of the most grueling sections, the Devil's Staircase at Kinlochleven, tests walkers before they reach the endpoint in Fort William.
I am 15 minutes into the route and it's already started to get really steep, rough and rugged, especially in this weather. Some people do it in 5, some people do it in 7. But no matter how long it takes, this 96-mile route does test your level of endurance.
The new charity hopes that thousands of hikers will continue to walk the West Highland Way and agree that the route is worth every step and every effort to protect it. Raheem Cham, STV News, Mulgai.
Well, back now to Ramad at Ibrox with more following Russell Martin's sacking.
Your window to sport. CR Smith sponsors STV Sport.
A very good evening from Ibrox. Less than 24 hours after Russell Martin was sacked as Rangers head coach following a terrible sequence of results. Within the last 20 minutes or so, club chairman Andrew Kavanagh and vice chairman Parag Marathi admit they got the appointment wrong, while Rangers are ramping up their search for a new head coach. Jamie Bothwick now looks back on Martin's brief and disastrous reign as manager.
He was supposed to be leading the charge on Rangers' American Revolution. New owners, new head coach and new hope for a brighter future at Ibrox.
I'm just desperate to get started and excited about what's to come and what we can really get building here.
But for Russell Martin, that American dream quickly turned into a nightmare. He was backed heavily by Rangers' new owners, a net spend of £20 million on a number of new players. And despite initial success in the Champions League qualifiers, the squad struggled as the domestic campaign began, stuttering to draw after draw in the Premiership, and the fans quickly began to turn. A nightmare exit from the Champions League, 9-1 over 2 legs to Club Bruges, and the fans snapped.
And to the fans, I have nothing but an apology. I'm really sorry that to witness that, and it is humiliating, it's really painful.
As Martin continued to desperately search for a league win, there was further friction as fan favourite Nico Raskan was exiled from the team. There followed a goalless draw with Celtic before a damaging 2-0 defeat to Hearts at Ibrox.
It's not big tactical problems. The problems are the emotion, managing anxiety, are psychological.
The terraces had turned toxic as Rangers fell to 10th in the table, 9 points off the top. Not even a first league win of the campaign could spare Martin from the fans' fury. He hoped the late winner would be a turning point for Rangers' fortunes.
I think it could be a real big moment for us. Hopefully it will. They'll feel really good about it in the dressing room.
But more dropped points the following week proved the final straw. An appointment that many fans doubted from the very outset goes down as a failure for the new Rangers regime. Where they turn next will be crucial in winning back a fan base beleaguered by underachievement. Jamie Borthwick, STV Sport.
Well, just in terms of who Rangers appoint next, former chairman Dave King has told STV Sport he'd love to see Steven Gerrard back at the club for his second spell as manager and believes Gerrard has unfinished business at Rangers. King appointed Gerrard as manager in 2018. The Englishman won the Premiership trophy 3 years later. His overall record was 1 trophy win from a possible 9. King told us, "Steven is a winner and will get more out of the squad than we have witnessed so far. We have been watching a team that doesn't seem to have a plan for what to do when in and when out of possession. Steven would quickly sort that out. I believe he has unfinished business at Rangers." Well, former Rangers midfielder Kevin Thompson believes the next manager has to bring the edge and soul back into the club, and he says they need to make a quick appointment. We spoke to him earlier today.
I think they'll be quite far down the line on who that will be. I suppose we're just guessing. I don't think this has just been a reaction off the back of Sunday. This has been bubbling for the best part of a couple of months, so I can only presume that Kevin and Patrick and people above them will have sat and had conversations. I know the Americans have been over at different games at different times, so I'm sure the shortlist, without us knowing it, will already be written up.
Do you think they should go for Steven Gerrard again?
I can only go because I was in the building at the time that Steven was the closest that I've seen that carried an edge and a personality. I do think he would rejuvenate the fans. I think he's one that will split opinion, because I do think there is fans out there that think he's had his opportunity and then they should look forward and not look back. But when I think of the things that I've mentioned earlier, the prestige, the character, the personality that he's got, he's made for a club like Rangers. So I certainly think whoever comes in, man, would need to carry that prestige and that profiling and bring back the edge, bring back the soul, get the fans back on board.
OK, let's give you some other football news now. And Brendan Rodgers admits the feeling around Celtic isn't right. That after their late winner against Motherwell. The result keeps the champions 2 points behind league leaders Hearts, whose boss Derek McKinnon says Tynecastle was a beautiful sight after a dramatic derby win against Hibs. Daizan Maeda struck in the 92nd minute as Celtic came from behind to win 3-2 on Saturday. A strike in added time from Craig Halkett won the points for Hearts.
I think the confidence is building every week, but in terms of mounting a title challenge or anything, we're only 7 games into a 38-game season, so no, there's a long way to go at that. But in terms for us, the boys in there, the coaching staff, to keep getting confidence and keep winning games is only a good thing for everyone.
Football's a cruel sport. At the end of the day, the league table is what we all look at. It doesn't matter if you play well or not. It's the points that really count. So maybe you got to rub the green sometimes you don't. Ultimately, we'll just keep trying to improve, keep trying to be better.
To Scotland now, and Angus Guns admits he may need to leave Nottingham Forest to keep his place in future national team squads. The goalkeeper, who was training with the squad today ahead of this week's World Cup qualifiers against Greece and Belarus, says he's disappointed with his lack of game time at Forest. All 3 Scotland keepers don't currently feature for the clubs.
I went into a situation at the club where, I thought I'd be getting, obviously not regular game time, but some game time in terms of cups and things like that. It's not really materialised, which I'm disappointed about. The thing for me, it's not a long-term sort of contract, so there's definitely options, even in January, to possibly reconsider.
Well, that's just about all the sport for me tonight, live from Ibrox, where it's raining rather heavily, rather aptly, because during Russell Martin's reign, it didn't rain, but it poured.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
So the weather now with Philip, and Storm Amy has cleared. Philip, as we see from Raman at Ibrox there, we're not out of the woods yet.
No, John, not quite. Things are remaining unsettled, unfortunately. The storm has cleared. Storm Amy, our first named storm of the new season, was pretty impactful and disruptive on Friday night, as we heard earlier. Our maximum wind gust associated with Storm Amy was 96 miles per hour, recorded on Tyree. But this is provisional, as the site actually lost power at 6 p.m. on Friday. So a higher value could have been observed, but we will only know this once it gets the power back over the next couple of days. Let's take a closer look at what's in store. Here is the forecast.
A breezy morning will be followed up with a flurry of fresh delights for lunch. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, most of the heaviest rain is staying confined to the Western Isles and the Northern Isles. Here, we'll start off dry with plenty of clear skies around. Through the early hours of tomorrow morning, though, we just start to see a couple of cold fronts moving in from the north and the northwest. Those merge together into one cold front, and that will move south and eastwards, bringing with it a band of cloud and some showery outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Temperature-wise, with the cloud and the rain not dropping too far, lows of around 11 or 12 degrees Celsius. Before that, when we have the clear skies, possibly getting down to around 8 or 9. So looking ahead to tomorrow, overall a bit of a grey, murky, dull start to the day as that cold front continues to work its way south and eastwards. It's quite slow moving. It will be slow to clear the central belt later on tomorrow afternoon. Once it does, though, we do start to see some dry and brighter spells developing later on in the day. With that cold front moving through, it also introduces colder air. So that's the main thing that we'll notice tomorrow. Our temperatures down a few degrees compared to what we've seen today. Today we've seen highs of around 18, 19 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow, highs of 14 or 15, so feeling noticeably cooler out and about. Looking ahead to Wednesday, another frontal system just to the northwest of us brings more cloud and some showers across the north and west, with temperatures once again reaching highs of 15. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
So Philip, that weather station Tyree, even though it lost power, it might still have been recording.
Yes, we're hoping that it will still have all of the data.
Exciting times to see what that came up with. Philip, thank you. That's it from us. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.